That's where we'll begin today's show as Wall Street comes off what was a winning session on Wednesday and hovering right near all-time highs. I do want to bring in our first guest. That's Leo Feler, Chief Economist at Numerator. Leo, it's great to have you on the show this morning. And how does the economy look to you as stocks do trade at near records?
Good morning, Kristen. Thanks for having me on. So the economy looks like it's fairly stable right now, right? So the job market looks okay. We're getting some good readings about unemployment. We're getting some good readings about job openings. And so, from a jobs front, things look fine. From the inflation front, this might be the calm before the storm, where it looks like inflation had been trending lower, and maybe we're going to see a little bit of an uptick over the course of these next 6 months as tariff costs get passed on to consumer prices. But so far, the economy is on pretty solid fundamentals.
What is your expectation when it comes to inflation related to tariffs? We haven't seen it show up just yet, but certainly we know consumers were concerned about it at the start of the year.
Correct. We haven't seen it show up yet. And so let's look back at what happened during the pandemic, right? In March of 2021, we got this surge in consumer spending as we got mass vaccinations, as consumers were going out and spending some of their pent-up savings. It took about 14 months before inflation reached its peak, right? So there's usually this long lag between an economic shock when consumers were going out and spending and when inflation peaked. This time around, it's only been about 4 months since the April 2nd announcements of tariffs. Tariffs have gone up and down. They have been paused. We expect it to take also about 14 to 16 months for tariff effects to start showing up in consumer prices. And that's because manufacturers have contracts in place with retailers. They can't just walk into a Walmart and a Costco and say, we're going to raise your prices today, because they're locked into existing contracts. Manufacturers also have contracts with their suppliers. And so they're not seeing immediate price increases because things are locked in.
Yeah.
And then we often hear from some of our clients at Numerator that they only really get one bite at the apple when they get to negotiate price increases with retailers. And so they're waiting for more clarity to see, all right, what is the final tariff going to be? What prices should I pass on to retailers for retailers to pass on to consumers? And it looks like that's going to mostly start happening in this second half of the year right now. I do expect, since we're already starting to see about $50 billion more in tariffs being collected as of June this year compared with June last year, that this will eventually get passed on to consumers. That's generally how tariffs work.
I do want to talk about Delta earnings, because we did see Delta reinstate guidance, the share price reacting accordingly, a double-digit pop here pre-market, company listed on the NYSE. What does that indicate about the appetite of the consumer and the health of those consumers, which make up 70%, of course, of overall GDP spend?
Yeah, we really have to think about the consumer as not one monolithic entity. There are many different types of consumers. There's your low-income consumer, who we actually do see struggling quite a bit. And then there's your high-income consumers, and they're benefiting from higher equity prices, pretty much near record home prices, home equity. And so for the high-end consumer, their purchasing power is still really strong. And I think this is why companies like Delta can go out and say, look, we're really not worried, because we derive so much more of our revenue from high income relative to low income consumers, right? Maybe our basic economy product might not be doing so well, but our premium economy product, our business class, is doing great. And so this is where I think, we really need to think about this as a bifurcated economy. And those segments of the economy that cater towards a higher income consumer, they are a lot more insulated, especially when we think about, the recent budget bill enacted, tax and budget bill enacted, which tends to benefit higher income consumers going forward, right? The higher income consumer is still doing very well, and we expect them to continue doing very well over the course of these next few years.
Leo Feler, Chief Economist at Numerator. Leo, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, well, up next, the epicenter of the soccer world is in New Jersey. Find out why the Garden State is the place to be for soccer fans on the other side of this short break.